So without further ado, I welcome Alberto.
Thank you. Before I start, I want to know, how many Spanish do we have, or Latin American, or Spanish-speaking people in this room?
But we won't find it from now till Sunday.
Don't stop! Okay? How many Chinese do we have? How many Germans do we have? Okay. Well, I want to say that the final against Spain next Sunday is of no concern at all to me. I just feel it's just a sport competition. And if Spain wins, I'm happy as well. We went into the final thanks to the very gentlemanship behavior by Spain, who decided to play this game against Croatia. And so we owe to Spain, went that far. We went much further than we thought. I already got my prize, because to me, beating Germany was, you can't imagine. Just like, think within yourself, okay? We did a good job. I'm talking about Spanish in Brussels the other day. We went much further than we thought. So like Sunday, let's just have time. I'm not even gonna be a fan, okay? I don't care, okay? Spain is a much better team, and this is the tone, and that's gonna accompany my presentation from now on. Now, I'm gonna tell you things today I never told anybody, okay? Who said? Who said? Excitement. No, I'm going to tell you things that, in part, because Oliver is smart and asked me to talk about these things, which is how it is like to have a Chinese shareholder going overseas, which is not the same thing as doing a joint venture with the Chinese in China. Big difference. Delicate subject, though. So Oliver was smart. Pedro is here. Is a guarantee. I mean, Pedro's known me since I was in shorts. We worked together at a consulting company. I was just out of business school. It was already like this. I mean, you know, he's always been like this. So I'm in CEIBS, so I feel home. So I'm gonna say things I never wrote, I never spoke about ever. Now, my presentation is broken up in 3 parts. And now, since I'm afraid I'm gonna be too long, I tell you what it is. In the first part, I'm gonna talk about Chinese outbound investment. What it is, what works, and what doesn't work. And whatever I tell you because we've been involved in that process, and I made any possible mistakes that I could make. So I'm just teaching you on the back of my mistakes. So it's all life experiences. The second is what it is like to have a Chinese shareholder in 2 different ways. What is the post management? How do Chinese companies behave when they buy something offshore, which is one thing, and what is like having a Chinese financial shareholder. They're 2 very different stories. Okay, so if you have any special, if you say, oh, well, there's a lot of stuff, say this first, say that, but keep in mind that I may go long, so stop me and help me steer it through, because I don't have super control over my time. I tend to be emotional, as you can say. Now, Oliver described what I did what we did very well with Mandarin, but that is the past. That is, Mandarin Capital Partner was started in 2007, closed in 2007, and the investment is finished, and now we are investing. The size of first Mandarin, the one that Oliver talked about, was 328 million euro. Now we are into investing Mandarin 2, which is 1 billion euro. So basically, I'm going to tell you about the past, about what happened with Mandarin. Everything I tell you derives from that experience. Before we start, let me give you just one thing. We achieved 6 records with Mandarin 1. First, in 2006, when we start talking about it, it was the very first ever China outbound fund ever set up. That was the first record. We were the first. Second, we were the first foreign private equity money fund who received Chinese institutional money. We basically received government of China money through the 2 big policy banks that are China Import-Export Bank and China Development Bank. The third record is in 2008. We did what was at the time the largest Chinese acquisition in Europe. There was the acquisition of Zoomlion, of Chifa. There was a concrete machinery manufacturer by Zoomlion, which is one of the largest earth machine players in China. And the amount was, in 2008, was 511 million euro. The record number 4 is, a few months ago, we achieved the largest exit of a China fund offshore. When we exited our biggest investment with a multiple of 3 after a year and a half. Because as you'll discover later, Chinese buy, but they're not that great at exiting because they tend to overpay. So they pay so much that basically they get stuck with most of what they buy. Okay? I already introduced you to this concept. After 6 years, our 5th record, Mandarin 1, not Mandarin 2, Mandarin 1 is still the largest Sino-European fund. On the last record, we made 11 acquisitions, and there is not a single company we think you're not going to make money on it, in spite of the crisis. Not all the companies are profitable, but we're going to make money on all of them, which is, generally in a PE portfolio, you have 2 make very good, 2 make very poorly, and the middle so-so. This is. Let's talk about, now I'm going to, that was just the introduction. First subject, China outbound strategy. First of all, I'm going to talk to you only about merger and acquisition. Otherwise, the subject will be way too big. Okay? Second, I'm only going to talk about Europe, because Chinese are gigantic investors in Central Asia, in Africa, in Latin America. Every continent is a different story. US, every continent is a different story. I need to focus. Then you can ask me questions, but I need to stay focused. Third, much to your surprise, in contrary to every Chinese concern, Chinese have been much better at managing what they bought than at buying what they bought. Chinese think of themselves as great negotiator, and they're very concerned, how am I going to manage what I get? Well, it actually did happen the opposite. They managed pretty good but they didn't buy pretty good. Pedro, if I go beyond the boundaries and see it's going to crumble on you, tell me, eh? I don't want you to, every concept I express, I mean, I'm not a theoretician, I'm not an academician, it's all spring from actual, real mistakes. There is a story, and I told you this before. And we made them all. Everything that I tell you here that is wrong, we made it. That's why I'm telling you it's wrong. The important thing, to make mistakes is human. To repeat them is devilish. So we make sure we don't repeat them. Okay? I tell you a few obvious things. China today is the 5th largest overseas investor in the world. China invests overseas about $80 billion a year. But this amount is hugely underestimated. Because it doesn't take into account that it only takes into account the money coming out of China. It doesn't account for the money coming out of Hong Kong. And it doesn't account for the money that comes out that it is already offshore. Okay? And these are official statistics by MOFCOM. So truly, believe me, they're widely underestimated. The already made Chinese investment in Africa is a multiple of this. China receives historically every year about $100 billion, and the figure is stable. Okay, it's stable. So now we are at the point where 1800. We are at the point where the outflow is equal to the inflow. You know, so much money come in, so much money goes out. This story about China outbound is just the tip of the iceberg. For a number of reasons we can discuss, would be too long. I think the wave of Chinese investment overseas is going to be something that's going to change the face of the planet. Very much as UK investment did last century, US investment did after World War II, and intra-European investment did during the heavy period of European integration. And to some extent, Chinese investment can change the face of the planet even more. Because this is the first time that we have a player that invests simultaneously. Money, technology, and people. Because what Chinese do, they do export the money, they do export the know-how, and do export millions of people. And how is this going to work out? Nobody knows. There are no scenario, no past experience, no nothing we can look at to interpret this phenomenon. And the way it's going to work out is going to be different in every continent. This is an introduction. I go into the China outbound. How are we doing with the time? Good. So far, 95% of the money I told you about is all resource. You say, oh, 80 billion, even more. It's mainly iron ore, coal, oil, palm oil, zinc, it's that kind of stuff. So far, they've been buying resources. It's normal. China has many resources. On a per capita basis, it doesn't have that many. It's very dependent. So the first thing they do, they try to establish security as a strategic imperative to ensure the supply. Now China is getting into M&A in developed markets, okay, especially in Europe. The big M&A in developed markets, in manufacturing. In developed market, you generally don't buy resources. You don't find them there. Okay, I'm talking about Japan, I'm talking about Europe, I'm talking about the United States. In Canada and Australia, no, they're still buying coal and gas and all that. But now they're moving to Japan, Europe, and the US, and they're buying not natural resources, manufacturing, service, high-tech outlet, and so on. And that is a much trickier game, because understanding resource. Because when they get down to resources, they're basically the buyers. So they buy coal, but it's like it is the Chinese buyer buying his own mining. So they know what the prices is. They are the market, so it makes sense. It doesn't create that much of a risk profile. Now, of course, something's not written here. Why Chinese buy now offshore? Most of you think buy manufacturing and other things. Why? Most of you think for export. No, they don't give a damn about export. They don't give a damn. They want to buy know-how and brand to differentiate themselves in the local market. Because one feature of Chinese economy, everything is always oversupplied. Everything is always overinvested. Industrial sectors tend to be full of players, very fragmented, and they compete with often supply exceeding demand, all of them competing on price. With very little differentiation among the players. A Chinese companies really don't give a damn about exporting anymore. Who cares going to Europe? It's going down. Who cares about going to the US? In some segments, China economy is still going at 20%. Health sector, environmental sector, fashion sector, who the heck cares? They're all looking inland. But looking inland, they need something to be able to say we are different from our competitor, so we need to charge premium. So they do invest mainly to buy know-how, technology, and brands. And they think this is the solution. You know, we go by and we are dealing with very successful people. They had like 30 years of very successful life, whether they're in state-owned enterprise or private enterprise. You know, life is being relatively easy. It was hard before. Chinese entrepreneur life, especially with good connection, life is being relatively easy. So they say, let's go buy. Well, here we start the trick. First of all, now, don't expect that European, American, and Japanese haven't figured this out. Whatever is stuff out there on sale, there is someone else looking at it. Okay? And they know very well what Chinese companies intend to do. And they're very determined not to let them do. The only feature they observe, and I'm going to make a very simple statement. You only buy something which is on sale. This to me is very hard to make Chinese entrepreneurs understand. Because they call me big guy on top of a big SOE and says, for Chile, there is this company, I want this. Says, oh, try to go buy a company which is not on sale, especially if it's family owned. They kick you out of the door. You know, if someone calls me when I have some real estate, and they call me and they say, oh, Mr. Fouquier, would like to buy, I know you have a villa, you have a piece I would like to buy. So I get pissed like hell. Because the immediate reaction is, why do they want to buy? Do they think I need cash? They hurt me, my ego. Okay? So you don't go and try to buy something which is not on sale. And this is the first thing they have to explain to Chinese potential buyers. Because either you get the people pissed off, or they sell you at 3 times the value. Basically they say, well, they want to buy, oh, if they give me this much, I'm going to sell it to them. Okay? So, the key success factor for buying, well, I mean, when people say, what is your strategy for Kelly? Well, my strategy is this, I do have a strategy. Buy low and sell high. Okay? So the first element is to buy as low as possible. Now, to buy as low as possible means to be very early into the sale process. Means understanding the situation and understanding when a company is possibly going to be on sale. There are breakage points. The old man is getting old. The two kids are having a problem. The company is undervalued on the stock market. There are points. So you observe the company and you think one day they could be, and you watch them for years. Okay? You know, and you talk to people. You know, how is this called? How you call this in China? Ah, thank you. And who replied Guanxi? Who said Guanxi? You? Who said, well, and now I asked my Chinese friend, do you think Guanxi is only a Chinese phenomenon? No. Do you think Guanxi is express itself the same way in China as it does in all the other parts of the world? No, what do you mean? Yeah, you think every Guanxi is because you bring a bottle of whiskey or you do 25,000 campaign every night until your liver fall off? No. Okay? Every Guanxi is different. Okay? So you need to understand, it takes patience. You need to penetrate the civil society where you want to be. You can just rush in. And you need to be part of the civil society. All this government-to-government deals is all bullshit. In the end, nothing gets done. It's all like, this is a hard thing to make Chinese company understand, and they're not really playing this game. Of course, what they do, they entrust themselves to intermediaries. That obviously, the fact that Chinese company overbuy is very well known at the high level of Chinese government. MOFCON knows, and DRC knows, SASAC knows, everybody knows, and everybody's worried in Beijing. Okay? And they say you should have intermediaries. So now Chinese companies are getting Goldman Sachs. They have to have one financial advisor. They have to have one company doing the due diligence, and at least, especially state-owned, two separate consulting companies giving an opinion. Do you think this makes it easy? You think this makes it easy? Well, I tell you what happens. The financial advisor is paid on commission or on retainer, or both. So his value maximization is in dragging the process as long as possible, and he doesn't care about how big the value is. The lawyer, the more problem he creates, the more his fee is going to go high. So have you ever seen a lawyer simplifying a deal? Have you ever seen a consultant saying a deal was perfect without need for further analysis? So the result is that Chinese companies are slow and end up overpaying whatever they buy. Also because they have congenital one problem, which is not easily eliminable. That is, every acquisition a Chinese company does in the world has to be approved by MOFCON, NDRC, SAFE, then if the company is listed by CSRC, and if the company is partially state-owned by SASAC. But these authorizations are given on the basis of a already signed contract. So you are the seller, you go through the due diligence, the contract with the Chinese company, and then you sign a contract with a suspensive clause that says this contract is only going to work if within 90 days you have these 5 authorizations. You tell me, why would you ever sell to a Chinese under these conditions?
Because the price is high. That's the other reason.
One reason. And the second?
Other buyer?
Eh?
You have no other buyer?
Right. Fantastic. What a class. Class. You train this guy? Exactly. Two conditions. Either you overpay, so the seller said, I find such a chicken, I better, just give me so much money. What the heck? Or there's no other buyer around. So you don't think, you're probably not going to buy very well. And this is the result, by the way. Obviously, now I have a few things. Obviously, Chinese should never buy into turnarounds, because turnarounds are very difficult for Chinese culture. We, as a fund, having learned this experience, we don't make investments. Because the obvious thing is Chinese come to us and says, oh, let's buy this together. I know, but I'm going to get your disease. I have the money in Europe already. I have Chinese government money already, and I'm by definition allowed. I have to ask no permission. If I co-invest with you, you is the minimum common denominator. I take out all your negatives, and I get no positive. So the net result is I can go faster, and I prefer first buy, and then I sell. This is because co-investment is not a good solution for us. Not that things are not going to improve. But this right now is a situation where there is a lot of money out there which is not being spent very wisely. This is why you don't see many exits. And this is why you don't see this enormous liquidity that there is in the private equity sector in China, which is going offshore, because it can be deployed. Things will get better because, China in the end has learned and has got better than anybody else. This is an area where China has to overcome the obstacles still. And this is a long process. But I'm sure they're going to do it. More and more there are Chinese law firms. One of the key factors is also having a China support system too. Chinese law firms, Chinese accounting firms, Chinese banks. That makes it easy. But developing a service support for the M&A effort is going to be long and complicated. Now we're going to the second subject, which is, any question on the first one?